Welcome to a place where love is raw, where stories are not polished fairy tales, but the truth of hearts that have been broken, healed, and awakened again. Here, we dive into the silence after divorce, the nights filled with emptiness, and the fear that passion has slipped away forever. We explore the unexpected connections that spark in the most unlikely places, the stolen glances and lingering touches that stir desires thought long buried. You'll feel the fire of that one kiss, the kiss that melts years of numbness, that breaks every wall of pain, that turns loneliness into flame. And you'll rediscover the rebirth that only love and touch can bring, a surrender not to youth, but to truth, vulnerability, and the power of being deeply wanted. This is where real love lives, messy, raw, and unforgettable. The nights were the hardest, not because of the darkness, but because of the silence that swallowed everything whole. Silence has a weight when it presses against your chest, when it fills every corner of a room once alive with voices, footsteps, and laughter. That silence became a constant companion, heavier than any blanket could cover. It was the kind of silence that reminded that no one was waiting, no one was reaching out, no one was listening. The bed, once a place of warmth, became a cold stretch of empty sheets that carried the memory of a love that had long since died. Reaching for the other side out of habit, only to find it untouched, was a cruel reminder of what was gone. After the divorce, the days blurred together. The world outside moved quickly. People rushing to work, couples walking hand in hand, friends laughing over coffee. But inside, time seemed to move differently. It dragged, slow and heavy, like walking through water with stones tied to the ankles. Every morning began with the same ache, a hollowness in the chest that no routine could cure. Coffee tasted bitter, meals felt flavorless, and even the sunlight through the window couldn't touch the shadows that had settled deep within. Rejection leaves marks that don't fade easily. It's not just the ending of a marriage. It's the quiet sting of feeling unwanted, unseen, discarded after years of giving everything. There's an echo of words said in anger, words that cut deeper than knives, words that once spoken can't be taken back. Those echoes stay, replaying late at night when sleep refuses to come. They twist and coil, whispering that maybe love had expired, that maybe there was nothing left worth giving, nothing left worth receiving. Heartbreak doesn't just shatter the heart, it steals pieces of the soul. It makes every glance in the mirror a painful reminder of what was lost. The reflection staring back seemed older, more tired, stripped of softness, stripped of sparkle. Where there was once hope, there now lived doubt. Where there was once certainty, there now lived fear. The fear was constant, fear that time had run out, that passion was something reserved for the young, that the flame had gone out and could never be reignited. Nights became rituals of loneliness, lying awake, listening to the ticking of the clock, every second louder than the last, pulling the blanket close, searching for warmth in fabric instead of in arms. Touch became a memory rather than a reality. The feel of a hand tracing gently across the skin, the weight of another body beside your own, the intimacy of shared breaths in the dark. These became stories of the past, almost too painful to remember. The body began to feel like an empty vessel, untouched, unnoticed, forgotten. Friends tried to help. They said things like time heals all wounds, or you'll find someone again. Their voices carried kindness, but their words fell flat. Time wasn't healing, it was deepening the loneliness. The calendar flipped from one month to the next, years passing by with nothing but more silence to show for it. The thought of finding someone again felt like a cruel joke. Who would want a broken soul? Who would look beyond the scars, the years, the weight of rejection? Hope felt naive, something meant for those untouched by betrayal. And yet, underneath all of that emptiness, there was a faint ache that wouldn't disappear. It was deeper than loneliness, deeper than rejection. It was the soul's quiet longing for connection, the body's whisper that passion wasn't dead, only buried. Sometimes late at night, that whisper grew louder. Lying in the dark, tears staining the pillow, the truth would rise, the longing to be held again, to be kissed again, to feel alive again. But the fear would quickly drown it, fear of trying, fear of being hurt again, fear of opening up only to be broken once more. Still, even in the heaviest moments, the heart wouldn't let go of its secret desire. The emptiness was suffocating, but inside that emptiness lived a fragile spark. A spark that remembered the way love once felt, the way passion once burned. A spark that dared to hope that maybe, somewhere, someone might reach through the silence, touch the scars, and awaken what was thought lost forever. That was the hardest part of it all, the ache of believing that passion was gone, yet the secret, stubborn hope that it wasn't. That hope lived quietly, hidden beneath layers of pain, waiting for something or someone strong enough to bring it back to life. And so the nights went on, silent and heavy, yet carrying within them the quiet possibility that emptiness was not the end. It was only the beginning of a story waiting to be written. It happened in the quietest way, when love was the last thing expected. Life had settled into a rhythm of solitude, the days measured by routine, the nights weighed down by silence. The heart had stopped searching, convinced that the years had erased its right to desire, that longing was meant only for memories. Then, without warning, a presence appeared that stirred something long buried, a warmth that reached into places untouched for years. He was younger, with an energy that seemed to breathe life into the air around him. At first, it was easy to dismiss, to convince myself that what was felt was nothing more than imagination. But there was something in the way his eyes lingered, not with judgment, not with pity, but with a kind of quiet recognition, as if he could see past the scars, past the layers of pain, into the truth that even I had forgotten. It wasn't about youth or age, it wasn't about comparison. It was the way he looked, as though he truly saw, not just the body that time had changed, but the spirit that life had bruised. That gaze was disarming, frightening even, because it awakened a softness that had been locked away. It reached through walls built for protection, stirring desires thought lost to time. The conversations were simple at first, small exchanges that seemed harmless, but there was an ease in his voice, a gentleness that carried no weight of the past, no reminders of old wounds. In his presence, laughter came easier. Smiles no longer felt forced. The heart, which had grown so accustomed to heaviness, began to remember what lightness felt like. It was terrifying to feel it again, because with every moment of warmth came the fear of losing it. Yet the fear could not outweigh the way he made the air feel different, the way hope began to slip quietly back into the soul. It wasn't about the things he said, but the way he listened, really listened, with eyes that didn't wander, with attention that didn't fade. His presence was steady, his gaze unshaken, and in those moments of being truly seen, something began to heal. Desire, once buried under years of rejection and silence, began to flicker. It wasn't the desperate hunger of youth, but a deeper longing, one rooted in the need to feel alive, to be touched not only on the skin, but in the soul. There were moments when his nearness felt overwhelming, when the brush of his hand or the closeness of his body sent a rush of fire through veins that had grown cold. Every glance lingered too long. Every silence between words carried something unspoken, something undeniable. The body remembered, the spirit responded, and for the first time in years, the ache of loneliness was replaced by the tremor of possibility. It felt forbidden, not because of shame, but because of fear, fear of believing too much, fear of surrendering to something fragile. Yet with every encounter, the walls continued to crack. He never forced, never pushed, only stayed present with a patience that spoke louder than words. That patience was intoxicating because it wasn't born from obligation, it was born from genuine care. To be wanted for who I was, not for what I once had been, was more powerful than any touch could ever be. And then came the moment that changed everything. A kiss, unexpected yet inevitable, lingering and soft, but filled with a fire that spread through every part of me. It wasn't just lips meeting lips. It was years of silence breaking, years of pain melting, years of doubt unraveling. In that single kiss, the emptiness that had defined so many nights gave way to a flood of warmth, a reminder that desire had not died, that love had not left forever. That kiss was not only the beginning of passion, it was the beginning of hope. It awakened something far greater than lust. It awakened the belief that life was not over, that love could still come in ways never imagined. His touch didn't just stir the body, it stirred the soul, awakening every forgotten desire, every hidden dream. The fear remained, but it was no longer paralyzing. Instead, it became a reminder that what was being felt was real, powerful enough to shake the very ground that loneliness had built. That unexpected connection, born from nothing more than his presence and his gaze, transformed the way I saw myself, the way I saw the possibility of love. For the first time in years, the silence didn't feel empty anymore. It felt full of promise, full of a story still being written, full of a passion waiting to unfold. And in that promise lived the truth I had almost forgotten: hope doesn't die. It only waits for the right touch to awaken it again. It wasn't planned. It wasn't spoken about. It wasn't even supposed to happen. But sometimes the heart moves faster than reason, and the body listens to something deeper than logic. That night, everything shifted with a single kiss. One that didn't just touch the lips, but broke through every wall I had spent years building to survive. The air was heavy with tension before it happened. Every glance, every brush of his hand, every pause between words had been leading to this moment. My chest tightened as though I knew something was coming, yet part of me still fought against it, still clung to fear like a shield. And then, without warning, it happened. His lips found mine. It wasn't rushed, it wasn't desperate. It lingered, soft at first, almost hesitant, as though he was giving me the choice to pull away, but I couldn't. My body froze, not from rejection, but from the flood of sensations rushing through me. That kiss melted the years of silence, the years of emptiness, the years of being untouched. It was as if every nerve in my body, once dormant, suddenly awoke. Fire coursed through veins that had long since grown cold, and hunger, undeniable hunger, rose to the surface. I had forgotten what it felt like to be kissed like that. Not out of duty, not out of routine, but out of pure desire. It wasn't the kiss of a man trying to own. It was the kiss of a man wanting to discover, to connect, to awaken. My heart pounded so loud I thought he could hear it, and my breath trembled against his lips as if I were tasting life for the first time. The kiss deepened, and with it, so did the release. Tears stung the corners of my eyes, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming rush of being alive again. Every scar, every rejection, every lonely night seemed to dissolve in that moment. The walls I had clung to for safety crumbled without resistance. His kiss didn't ask for permission, it gave it. Permission to feel, permission to hope, permission to surrender. I could taste the truth in him, the warmth that no words could ever carry. That truth wasn't about promises of forever, it was about right now. Right there, in that kiss, I wasn't broken, I wasn't unwanted, I wasn't invisible, I was seen, I was desired, I was burning. The room felt different afterward, charged with an energy I hadn't felt in decades. My body trembled not from fear, but from the awakening of something I thought time had buried. His lips pulled away only slightly, his breath still mingling with mine, and in that space between us, I felt more alive than I had in years. My skin hummed, my soul ached, and my heart screamed for more. But it wasn't just physical. That kiss was a collision of spirits, a meeting point between loneliness and longing, between pain and healing. It was forbidden, yes, by age, by fear, by all the rules I had lived by, but it was also necessary, because in that kiss I remembered who I was beneath the scars, beneath the years, beneath the emptiness. For so long, numbness had been my armor. I had convinced myself that I didn't need to feel, that I could survive without passion. But the truth was cruel. I had been starving, and his kiss fed me in a way nothing else ever could. It was more than lips pressing together. It was fire flooding into frozen veins, a spark lighting a soul long trapped in shadow. I clung to that moment, afraid to let it slip away, afraid to wake up and find it had only been a dream. My hands trembled as they touched him, as if my body couldn't quite believe this was real, and yet it was the heat, the hunger, the raw urgency of life rushing back into me. When the kiss finally broke, the silence that followed was not empty like the silence I had known before. It was full of possibility, full of desire, full of the promise that something had changed forever. I touched my lips, still tingling, still burning, as though his kiss had branded me, claimed a part of me I thought was dead. In that single moment, everything I believed about love, about age, about desire was undone. The years of numbness, of telling myself passion, was gone, shattered like glass. That kiss didn't just touch me, it rebuilt me. It reminded me that love does not belong to youth alone, that passion is not bound by time, that fire can burn again no matter how many years the ashes have settled. And as I stood there, heart racing, lips swollen, body trembling with life, I knew with undeniable certainty that kiss had changed everything. It didn't happen all at once. It wasn't some sudden explosion of passion that swept me away without warning. It was slower, deeper, a quiet surrender that unfolded piece by piece, as if life itself was teaching me how to feel again. For so long, I had carried the weight of emptiness, convincing myself that desire belonged only to the past, that intimacy was something I had already lived and lost. But then came his touch, and with it a rebirth I never thought possible. It began with the smallest things, the way his hand would linger when he brushed against mine, the warmth of his fingers resting gently on my arm, as though even the simplest contact had meaning. There was no rush, no pressure, no demand. His touch was patient, almost reverent, as if he understood that my heart had been fragile for too long. In those moments, I felt myself softening, letting go of the tension I didn't even realize I carried in my body. To be wanted again, after years of silence, was overwhelming. Not in a way that frightened me, but in a way that brought me to tears when I was alone at night. I had spent so much time feeling invisible, unwanted, forgotten. And yet here was someone whose eyes lingered not because of obligation, but because of desire, whose touch carried not pity but passion. It awakened something I thought had died, something buried beneath the years of rejection and loneliness. The more I let go, the more I discovered that passion at this stage of life is not about youth or perfection. It's about truth. It's about the rawness of being fully seen, scars and all, and still being chosen. His hands traced my skin as if every line, every mark, every curve told a story worth knowing. I wasn't young anymore, but I was alive, and in his arms, that aliveness burned brighter than it ever had. Every kiss, every embrace, every moment of closeness felt like a step deeper into rediscovery. It wasn't the frantic urgency of youthful lust. It was richer, fuller, more profound. There was beauty in the slowness, in the way we allowed ourselves to savor each moment, as if both of us understood how precious it was to feel this kind of connection. His lips on mine didn't just ignite fire, they soothed the wounds that had kept me numb for so long. His body against mine wasn't just warmth, it was a reminder that I was still desired, still worthy of love, still capable of giving and receiving passion. There were times I caught myself trembling, not from fear, but from the sheer intensity of being wanted so deeply. Vulnerability had always felt dangerous, but with him it became a gift. I could let go of the armor I had built. I could surrender without shame because his love didn't demand perfection. It welcomed honesty. Every sigh, every whispered word, every tear shed in his embrace became part of a truth I had hidden from even myself. I still longed to be touched, to be loved, to be seen. The intimacy we shared went far beyond flesh. Yes, his touch awakened my body, reminded me of the hunger I thought I had buried with time, but it also reached into my soul, pulling me back into the light. I realized that true passion doesn't fade with age, it deepens. It becomes less about appearances and more about presence, less about performance and more about connection. In his arms, I didn't feel old. I didn't feel broken. I felt alive. Surrendering to him wasn't giving up control. It was reclaiming myself. For years I had lived in survival, in silence, in emptiness. But now, every time his lips pressed against my skin, every time his hands traced the shape of me, I felt reborn. The body I once saw as worn, as aged, became a vessel of desire again. The soul I once thought forgotten came alive with a hunger that felt both terrifying and beautiful. There was no shame in it, only truth. Truth in the way my heart raced when he touched me. Truth in the way his voice broke down my last defenses. Truth in the way passion and love intertwined, creating something deeper than anything I had known before. I wasn't being loved for who I had been once upon a time. I was being loved for who I was now, vulnerable, scarred, but still capable of giving all of myself. It was in that surrender that I found freedom. Freedom from the lies I had told myself about being too old, too broken, too far gone. Freedom from the chains of rejection and fear. Freedom in knowing that intimacy wasn't over. It was just beginning in a new, richer form. His touch gave me back to myself, not as the woman I had been, but as the woman I had become. And in his arms, I discovered something I will never forget. Passion is not measured by years, but by depth. Love is not reserved for the young. It belongs to those who are brave enough to surrender, to risk, to feel. And I, who once thought passion had been buried forever, was reborn through love and touch. Thank you for sharing this journey of deep love and rediscovery. If this story touched you, leave a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more powerful stories of passion, healing, and connection. Until next time, remember, love doesn't fade with age, it deepens with truth.